Imagine waking up tomorrow with the ability to solve problems that have haunted you for years. Picture yourself walking into a room full of challenges and feeling excited instead of overwhelmed. Envision making decisions with such clarity that doubt simply evaporates. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when you master the art of strategic thinking. Right now, at this very moment, there's a version of you that exists. A more powerful, more capable, more successful version. The only difference between you today and that future version isn't time, money, or connections. It's how you think. Your mind is currently running on default settings, using the same thought patterns you developed as a child. But what if you could install a completely new operating system? What if you could think like the world's most successful strategists, innovators, and leaders? In the next 26 minutes, you're about to discover exactly how to do that. Get ready to unlock your brain's hidden potential. Welcome to a transformation journey unlike anything you've experienced before. Every single decision you make, from what you eat for breakfast to which career path you choose, is filtered through mental frameworks you didn't consciously design. You inherited them. You absorbed them from parents, teachers, society, and random experiences. And here's the problem. These frameworks were never optimized for success. They were optimized for survival in environments that no longer exist. You're trying to navigate a complex modern world with a mental GPS designed for a completely different terrain. No wonder things feel difficult. But today, that changes. We're going to rebuild your thinking from the ground up. You'll learn how masters of strategy, innovation, and problem-solving approach challenges completely differently from everyone else. More importantly, you'll learn how to think this way yourself. By the end of this journey, you won't just know more, you'll think better. And when you think better, everything in your life improves. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why brilliant people make terrible decisions. Here's a question that haunts psychologists. Why do incredibly intelligent people consistently make catastrophically bad choices? You've seen it. The genius entrepreneur who destroys their company with one terrible decision. The brilliant investor who loses everything in an obvious scam. The talented professional who sabotages their own career repeatedly. Intelligence doesn't protect you from bad decisions. Sometimes it makes you more vulnerable. The intelligence trap. Smart people are exceptionally good at rationalizing. They can construct elaborate justifications for almost any choice, which means they can talk themselves into terrible decisions while feeling completely logical. They also tend to be overconfident. Their past successes convince them they can figure out anything, so they don't seek help or question their assumptions as rigorously as they should. The 3 hidden enemies. Your brain faces 3 invisible adversaries that sabotage your thinking without you ever noticing. Enemy number 1. Speed over accuracy. Your brain prioritizes fast decisions over correct decisions. In ancient times, this made sense. Better to run from a shadow that might be a predator than wait to confirm what it is. Today, this creates disaster. You make snap judgments about complex situations that require careful analysis. You rush to conclusions based on incomplete information. You choose the familiar over the optimal because it's faster. Enemy number 2. Emotion over logic. Despite what you believe about yourself, emotion drives most of your important decisions. Logic comes later to justify choices your emotional brain already made. This isn't necessarily bad. Emotions contain valuable information. The problem is, when emotional reactions masquerade as logical analysis, you think you're being rational when you're actually being reactive. Enemy number 3. Certainty over truth. Your brain hates uncertainty. It craves clear answers and definitive conclusions. So it creates certainty even when none exists. You encounter ambiguous information, and your brain immediately forces it into clear categories. You face complex situations with multiple possible interpretations, and your brain selects one interpretation and treats it as fact. This certainty feels good. It also makes you blind to alternative possibilities and resistant to contradictory evidence. The path forward. Understanding these enemies is your first step toward defeating them. You can't eliminate them. They're hardwired into human cognition. But you can develop awareness of when they're influencing you and techniques to counteract them. That's what strategic thinking is really about. Not becoming superhuman, but becoming conscious of your mental processes and deliberately choosing better patterns. Chapter 2. The Master Framework. Every field has its fundamental principles. Music has scales. Mathematics has axioms. Strategic thinking has what I call the Master Framework, 4 core competencies that, when developed, transform how you navigate the world. Competency 1. Systems vision. Stop seeing events. Start seeing systems. When your car breaks down, you don't just see a broken car. You see a system of interconnected parts where one failure reveals deeper issues. When a relationship deteriorates, you don't just see an argument. You see a system of communication patterns, unmet needs, and feedback loops. Systems vision means recognizing that everything connects to everything else. The problem you see is almost never the real problem. It's a symptom of invisible system dynamics. Develop this competency by constantly asking, what system is producing this outcome? What are the invisible connections I'm not seeing? How do the parts influence each other? Competency 2. Temporal fluidity. Most people are trapped in the present. Strategic thinkers move fluidly across time. They simultaneously consider immediate consequences, medium-term implications, and long-term effects. They ask, how does this decision look in an hour, a month, a year, a decade? This temporal fluidity prevents short-term thinking that creates long-term disasters. It also reveals opportunities invisible to people focused only on immediate outcomes. Practice this by forcing yourself to consider 3 time horizons before any significant decision: immediate impact, 1-year consequences, and 10-year results. Competency 3. Probabilistic reasoning. The world doesn't operate in certainties. It operates in probabilities. Strategic thinkers don't ask, will this work? They ask, what's the range of possible outcomes? What's the probability distribution? What's the expected value? This shift from binary thinking to probabilistic reasoning completely transforms decision quality. Instead of needing certainty before acting, you can make excellent decisions under uncertainty by properly weighing probabilities. Start developing this by expressing predictions as probability ranges rather than definitive statements. Instead of "this will succeed," think there's approximately a 60% chance this succeeds, and here's why. Competency 4. Leverage orientation. Not all effort produces equal results. Some actions create linear outcomes, double the input, double the output. Other actions create exponential outcomes, same input, 10 times the output. Strategic thinkers obsessively seek leverage. They'd rather spend 10 hours finding a high-leverage opportunity than 100 hours executing a low-leverage one. This isn't about working less. It's about directing effort toward activities that create disproportionate impact. Develop leverage orientation by constantly asking, is this the highest impact use of my time right now? What would create 10 times the result with the same effort? Chapter 3. Escaping mental prisons. You're trapped in invisible prisons built by your own mind. These prisons are so familiar you don't even recognize them as constraints. The assumption prison. Every problem you face comes preloaded with assumptions you've never questioned. These assumptions define what solutions seem possible. Want to improve education? You probably assume learning requires teachers, classrooms and age-based grouping. These are assumptions, not requirements. Want to grow your business? You probably assume you need to serve existing customers better. But what if you need completely different customers? The assumption prison keeps you solving the wrong problems because you're accepting constraints that don't actually exist. Breaking free. Use the assumption audit technique. When facing any challenge, write down every assumption you're making about it. Then systematically question each one. Ask, is this a law of nature or a human convention? What would be possible if this weren't true? Why do I believe this assumption is necessary? You'll discover that most of your constraints are optional. The expertise prison. Expertise is a double-edged sword. The more you know about something, the more you see it through established frameworks. This helps you recognize patterns quickly, but blinds you to possibilities outside those frameworks. Experts in stable industries often fail to recognize disruption because their expertise tells them certain things are impossible. Beginners, lacking this expertise, don't know what's impossible and sometimes achieve it. Breaking free. Deliberately seek perspectives from people outside your field. When solving business problems, ask artists how they'd approach it. When facing technical challenges, ask psychologists for their insights. Cross-domain thinking reveals possibilities that single-domain expertise misses. The identity prison. You have beliefs about who you are, your strengths, weaknesses, preferences, and limitations. These beliefs shape what you attempt and how you approach challenges. The problem? Most of these beliefs are based on outdated evidence or random experiences you've overgeneralized. You believe you're not good with numbers because you struggled with one math class years ago. You believe you're not creative because someone once criticized your idea. These identity beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. Breaking free. Treat your identity as provisional. Instead of I am not creative, think I haven't yet developed creativity in this specific area. This shift from fixed identity to developmental mindset opens possibilities you've been unconsciously blocking. Chapter 4. The Power Tools. Strategic thinkers don't just think differently, they use specific mental tools most people never learn. Here are the most powerful ones. Tool 1. Second-order thinking. Most people stop at first-order consequences. Strategic thinkers always push to second and third-order effects. First order, if I take this job, I'll earn more money. Second order, earning more money will allow me to invest, creating passive income. Third order, passive income will give me freedom to pursue meaningful projects that might become even more valuable. Or in the negative direction, first order, if I skip this workout, I'll have more time today. Second order, skipping workouts creates a pattern of skipping commitments to myself. Third order, this pattern erodes self-trust and self-discipline across all areas of life. Always ask, and then what? And then what? Tool 2. Inversion. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Ask, how could I guarantee failure? This technique reveals blind spots because it's easier to identify what would definitely go wrong than to predict what will definitely go right. Planning a business? Don't just plan for success. Make a list of everything that would guarantee failure. Then make sure your strategy avoids all of those. Tool 3. The map territory distinction. Never confuse your mental model of reality with reality itself. The map is not the territory. Your understanding of any situation is always incomplete and somewhat inaccurate. Treat it as a working hypothesis, not absolute truth. This creates intellectual humility that prevents costly mistakes. You remain open to evidence that contradicts your current understanding. Tool 4. The Pareto Principle on steroids. You know the 80-20 rule. 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. But you can take this further. If 80% comes from 20%, then 64% comes from just 4%, 20% of 20%, and 51% comes from less than 1% of activities. Strategic thinkers relentlessly identify that tiny percentage of activities, creating the majority of results, and ruthlessly eliminate everything else. This isn't about time management, it's about life design. Organize your entire existence around your highest leverage activities. Tool 5. Pre-commitment. Your future self will face temptations and challenges that will sabotage your goals. Strategic thinkers recognize this and make decisions today that constrain their future choices. Ulysses had his crew tie him to the mast before sailing past the sirens. Modern strategic thinkers use the same principle. Want to save money? Set up automatic transfers so saving happens before you can spend. Want to exercise consistently? Schedule it at a time when canceling would disappoint someone else. Want to eat healthier? Don't keep junk food in your house. Design your environment and commitments so your future self can't easily make bad choices. Chapter 5. Thinking in bets. Life isn't chess where perfect information leads to optimal moves. Life is poker where you make the best decision you can with incomplete information and uncertain outcomes. Embracing uncertainty. Most people hate uncertainty and try to eliminate it before making decisions. This leads to analysis paralysis or premature commitment based on false certainty. Strategic thinkers embrace uncertainty. They make high-quality decisions despite incomplete information by thinking probabilistically. The bet mindset. Frame every decision as a bet. Ask yourself, given what I know right now, what probability do I assign to different outcomes? What's the expected value of each option? This doesn't mean calculating precise percentages. It means thinking in ranges and likelihoods rather than certainties. I'm about 70% confident this marketing strategy will increase sales by 15 to 25%. That's more accurate and more useful than this will definitely work, or I need more data before deciding. Updating your beliefs. In poker, good players constantly update their assessment as new cards appear. Bad players stick to their initial read, even when evidence contradicts it. Strategic thinkers actively update their beliefs based on new evidence. They view changing their mind as strength, not weakness. Create a belief update system. Regularly ask, what evidence would convince me I'm wrong about this? Have I actively sought such evidence? What new information should change my current assessment? Outcome versus process. Here's a critical insight. You can make excellent decisions that produce bad outcomes due to randomness. You can also make terrible decisions that happen to work out. Judge your thinking by the quality of your decision process, not just the results. This prevents learning the wrong lessons from random successes or failures. After any significant outcome, ask, was my decision process sound given what I knew then? If I faced this situation 100 times, would this decision process produce good results most of the time? Diversification of thought. Just as financial diversification reduces risk, cognitive diversification improves decision quality. Don't rely on a single mental model or perspective. Apply multiple frameworks to important decisions. Where they converge, confidence increases. Where they diverge, investigation deepens. This prevents being blindsided by the limitations of any single approach. Chapter 6. Mastering cognitive traps. Your brain systematically distorts reality in predictable ways. Understanding these distortions helps you avoid them. The narrative fallacy. Your brain creates stories to explain random events, making you see patterns where none exist. You think you understand why something happened when you're actually just constructing a plausible narrative. The stock market goes up, and financial news provides confident explanations. it goes down the next day, and they provide equally confident opposite explanations. Both are narratives imposed on randomness. Counter this by seeking evidence that contradicts your explanatory narratives. Ask, what else could explain this? How would I know if I'm wrong? Recency bias. Recent events feel more important and more predictive than they actually are. You overweight fresh experiences and underweight historical patterns. This causes investors to buy high and sell low, constantly chasing recent trends. It causes businesses to overreact to recent feedback while ignoring long-term data. Counter this by deliberately consulting base rates and historical patterns before making judgments based on recent events. The halo effect. One positive trait creates a positive bias toward all other traits. You meet someone attractive and assume they're also intelligent and trustworthy. You see a company with great marketing and assume they have great products. This causes systematic misjudgment in hiring, investing, and relationship decisions. Counter this by evaluating different attributes independently. Force yourself to separately assess competence, character, and compatibility rather than letting one dimension color all others. The sunk cost fallacy. You continue investing in failing projects because you've already invested so much. The past investment is gone regardless of future decisions, but it emotionally biases you toward continuing. This keeps people in bad relationships, failing businesses, and wrong career paths long after the evidence clearly suggests changing course. Counter this by asking, if I was starting from zero today, would I make this investment? If not, why am I continuing it? The planning fallacy. You systematically underestimate how long things will take and overestimate how likely you are to achieve optimistic outcomes. This happens because you focus on your specific plan and imagine everything going right. You don't adequately consider the reference class of similar projects and their actual timelines. Counter this by researching how long similar projects typically take and assuming you'll be average, not exceptional. Then add a buffer for unexpected complications. Chapter 7. The Pattern Decoder. Expertise is really just sophisticated pattern recognition. Masters in any field see patterns beginners don't notice. The good news? Pattern recognition can be deliberately developed. Building your pattern library. Patterns exist at multiple levels. Surface patterns are specific sequences of events. Deep patterns are underlying dynamics that generate those sequences. Start collecting patterns systematically. When you observe something interesting, a successful strategy, a failure mode, a relationship dynamic, document it. Describe the pattern structure, the conditions where it appears, and the typical outcomes. Over time, you'll build a mental library of patterns that helps you recognize familiar dynamics in novel situations. Cross-domain pattern transfer. The most powerful patterns appear across multiple domains. When you recognize these universal patterns, you can transfer insights from one field to another. Competition dynamics appear in biology, business, sports, and social interactions. Resource allocation challenges appear in economics, time management, and ecosystem management. Network effects appear in technology, social movements, and disease spread. Study how patterns work in one domain, then look for similar patterns elsewhere. This cross-pollination of insights creates breakthrough understanding. Leading versus lagging indicators. Most people focus on lagging indicators, visible outcomes that appear after patterns have fully developed. Strategic thinkers identify leading indicators, early signals that suggest larger patterns are emerging. In business, lagging indicators include revenue and customer complaints. Leading indicators include employee engagement and early adopter feedback. For each important outcome you track, ask, what changes before this outcome appears? What early signals predict this result? Weak signal detection. Major shifts often begin with weak signals that most people dismiss as noise. Strategic thinkers develop sensitivity to these weak signals. This requires fighting your brain's tendency to ignore information that doesn't fit existing patterns. Stay alert for anomalies, surprises, and contradictions. When something doesn't make sense based on your current understanding, don't dismiss it, investigate it. Anomalies often reveal important patterns in formation. Pattern degradation. Patterns that reliably predicted outcomes in the past can stop working when underlying conditions change. Part of pattern recognition is recognizing when patterns are breaking down. Stay alert for signs that established patterns are becoming less reliable. This often signals that fundamental conditions are shifting and new patterns are emerging. Chapter 8. Decision Architecture. Great decisions rarely come from willpower alone. They come from decision architecture, designing systems and environments that make good choices easy and bad choices difficult. Environment design. Your environment shapes your decisions far more than your willpower does. Strategic thinkers design environments that support their goals. Want to read more? Put books everywhere and remove distractions. Want to eat healthier? Make healthy food visible and convenient while making unhealthy food inconvenient. Want to save money? Automate savings so it happens before you can spend. This isn't about self-control. It's about reducing the need for self-control by making the right choice the easy choice. Decision rules. Create clear decision rules for recurring choices so you don't have to use cognitive energy repeatedly deciding the same things. I exercise every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. I never make important decisions when angry or anxious. I spend no more than 30 minutes on social media daily. Decision rules convert willpower-dependent choices into automatic behaviors. The two-way door versus one-way door. Amazon's Jeff Bezos categorizes decisions into two types. One-way doors are irreversible or very costly to reverse. Two-way doors are easily reversible. Most decisions are two-way doors, but people treat them like one-way doors, causing analysis paralysis. Strategic thinkers move quickly on two-way door decisions while being very careful with one-way doors. Before agonizing over a decision, ask, is this reversible? If it doesn't work, can I course correct? If yes, decide quickly and learn from the results. The decision journal. Most people don't learn from their decisions because they don't track them systematically. Create a decision journal. Before important decisions, record your thinking. What options are you considering? What outcome do you predict? What's your reasoning? What probability do you assign to success? Then, after outcomes appear, review your journal. Were your predictions accurate? What did you miss? What decision-making patterns do you notice? This creates a feedback loop that dramatically improves decision quality over time. Pre-mortems. Before implementing important decisions, conduct a pre-mortem. Imagine your decision failed spectacularly. Gather your team or think individually about what could have caused that failure. This surfaces risks that normal planning processes miss because it overcomes optimism bias. When you assume failure and work backward, you identify problems you'd overlook when planning for success. Chapter 9. Influence and Persuasion Mastery. Strategic thinking isn't just about making better decisions yourself. It's about influencing others to make better decisions too. Understanding motivation. People don't do what makes logical sense. They do what aligns with their emotional needs, social pressures, and identity beliefs. To influence anyone, you must first understand what really motivates them. This is rarely what they claim motivates them. Look at what they actually do, what they spend time on, what they avoid, and what triggers emotional reactions. These reveal true motivations better than stated intentions. The reciprocity principle. Humans feel obligated to return favors. But strategic reciprocity isn't about manipulation, it's about creating genuine value first. Find ways to help people before asking for anything. Make the help specific to their actual needs, not generic. The thoughtfulness matters more than the magnitude. This builds relationship capital that makes future collaboration natural rather than transactional. Social proof dynamics. People look to others for guidance on appropriate behavior, especially in uncertain situations. Strategic thinkers use this by demonstrating that reasonable people similar to their audience have already adopted the desired behavior. Instead of just presenting logical arguments, show that the trend is already happening. People want to join movements, not start them. The framing effect. How you present information matters more than what information you present. The same facts lead to different conclusions depending on framing. Losses motivate more powerfully than equivalent gains. You'll lose $500 if you don't act is more motivating than you'll gain $500 if you act. Frame messages to align with how your audience already thinks, while guiding them toward better conclusions. Building trust currency. Influence without trust is manipulation and doesn't last. Strategic thinkers build deep trust over time through consistency, competence, and genuine care for others' interests. This means sometimes advising against your short-term interests when it serves the other person better. This counterintuitive approach builds more influence than always pushing your agenda. The foot in the door technique. Small commitments lead to larger commitments. People who agree to small requests become more likely to agree to larger related requests because they develop a self-image as someone who supports that type of activity. Start with small, easy tasks that establish a pattern of agreement. Then gradually increase the commitment level. Active listening as strategy. Most people listen only enough to respond. Strategic thinkers listen to understand deeply. Ask clarifying questions. Reflect back what you hear. Acknowledge emotions underlying statements. This creates psychological safety and openness that makes persuasion possible. People don't resist ideas from those who genuinely understand them. Deep listening creates influence that logical arguments alone never achieve. Chapter 10. Your strategic future. Everything you've learned leads to this. Building a future that reflects your strategic thinking capabilities. Defining your direction. Most people never clarify what they actually want. They pursue vague goals like success or happiness without defining what those mean personally. Strategic thinkers get specific. What outcomes would make you feel your life was well lived? What capabilities do you want to develop? What impact do you want to create? Write this down. Make it concrete enough to guide decisions, but flexible enough to adapt as you grow. Reverse engineering success. Once you know where you want to go, work backward. What would someone need to have accomplished 1 year before that goal to be on track? What about 5 years ago? This reverse engineering reveals the milestones and capabilities you need to develop, making overwhelming long-term goals actionable. The scenario planning mindset. The future is uncertain. Don't predict one future. Prepare for multiple possible futures. Identify key uncertainties that could significantly impact your path. For each uncertainty, consider how different outcomes would change your strategy. Then identify actions that would serve you well across most scenarios. These robust strategies reduce risk while maintaining upside potential. Building strategic capabilities. Invest heavily in capabilities that remain valuable across different futures. Meta skills like learning ability, communication, critical thinking, and relationship building provide insurance against uncertainty. These capabilities create options. The more capabilities you develop, the more paths become available when opportunities or challenges appear. Creating accountability systems. Strategy without implementation is just fantasy. Create systems that ensure you actually execute. This might include regular reviews with mentors, public commitments that create social pressure, or tracking systems that make progress visible. Design these systems to be supportive rather than punitive. The goal is maintaining momentum, not creating guilt. The compound effect. Small improvements compound over time into extraordinary results. A 1% improvement daily creates 37% improvement over a year through compounding. Focus less on dramatic transformations and more on consistent incremental progress. Strategic thinking isn't about occasional brilliant insights. It's about slightly better decisions repeated thousands of times. Continuous calibration. Review your strategy regularly. Are your assumptions still valid? Are you making progress toward your defined direction? What have you learned that should change your approach? Strategy isn't set and forget. It's a living system that adapts as you learn and as conditions change. The goal isn't perfect planning. It's continuous improvement in both your strategy and your strategic thinking capabilities. We've journeyed together through the landscape of strategic thinking, from understanding why brilliant people make terrible decisions to building your own strategic future. But here's the moment of truth. Everything you've learned is worthless unless you actually use it. Knowledge that isn't applied is just entertainment. It's a pleasant mental massage that changes nothing. The transformation you're seeking, the clarity, the confidence, the capability to navigate complexity doesn't come from knowing these principles. It comes from living them. So here's your challenge. Starting right now, choose one single technique from everything you've learned. Just one. Maybe it's conducting a pre-mortem before your next important decision. Maybe it's creating a decision journal to track your thinking. Maybe it's practicing second-order thinking by always asking, and then what? Commit to practicing that one technique every day for the next week. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, just consistently. Notice what changes. Notice how your thinking shifts. Notice how your decisions improve. Then, after a week, add one more technique. And another. Gradually, methodically, build a completely new way of thinking. Here's what I promise you. If you actually do this, if you move beyond consuming information into practicing techniques, 6 months from now, you will be unrecognizable. You'll be the person who sees opportunities in situations where others see only obstacles. You'll be the person who makes difficult decisions with clarity while others drown in indecision. You'll be the person who creates solutions to problems others haven't even identified yet. But this only happens if you choose action over knowledge, practice over theory, implementation over inspiration. The tools are in your hands. The path is clear. The only question that matters is, will you walk it? Your brain has unlimited potential. Strategic thinking unlocks that potential. But the key only works if you actually use it. Start today. Start small, but start. Because the person you're capable of becoming is waiting for you to make the choice. And that person, they're absolutely extraordinary. Thank you for investing this time in transforming how you think. This is Unique Audiobook English, bringing you knowledge that creates real change. Remember, you're not just learning to think better, you're becoming someone who thinks brilliantly. Now go make it happen. The world is waiting for what only you can create.